Hi guys, today I'm going to show you this new bell housing from MerCruiser. It was used in newer serial numbers 2A514803 and up. And the only difference, the casting is actually identical. The only difference is the way this water inlet comes in. And there's basically three designs for the water inlet. Design 1, hose that would slip through here. There were ribs along the bell housing here, and that would basically get pushed in from the back, and you would take this tapered insert, put it in here, get a special tapered insert tool which has these little fits into these notches inside the insert, and you would screw it in. That won't work for this new bell housing style because they basically drilled out the ribs and they also added this tapered hole. That is for the new style of water hose inlet, which is really what they call Design 3. If we look at the water inlet designs for the old gimbal housings, they had Design 1, Design 2, which was basically a retrofit package to try to go towards what they call Design 3. And Design 3 is this new style hose with this clip, and I actually have that here that I'll show you. So they went to this this new water hose design, mainly with the rigid point at the top, mainly to get rid of what was kind of commonly called bravoitis, where the hose would actually collapse and get clogged up and potentially overheat engines, which is pretty common experience on the Bravo. So they went to this, again, this new design with this rigid hose at the top and these fittings, and then whether you get Design 2 or 3, Design 2 will install into the old bell housing style, and Design 3 will install into the new bell housing. The way this gets installed into that new bell housing is using this clip. This clip actually fits right into this notch right there and then gets screwed in. So basically that hose would get slipped in from behind in the bell housing. We take this clip, it would clip into that notch, and we would screw that in. And so the reason I bring this up is the old bell housing was quite expensive. I think it's upwards of $700. Where this new style bell housing, for once, is much cheaper at about $400. And this new style bell housing can be used with an existing housing by just upgrading to that Type 3 water hose here. The other thing to point out is now the housing is identical between whichever Design 1, 2, or 3 you have. These housings are all the same, but this is where the water comes in on the back, and this is that white rigid hose, and there's a rubber bushing in this Design 3 that gets installed there. Okay, so the different connectors here. If you have this white hose, you want to use one of the blue connectors. It's two styles of blue connectors. Traditional barb fitting that you would just install with a hose clamp, and over here on the right, a quick connect fitting, depending on whatever your engine coolant hose has. One more minor note, with Design 2 and Design 3, technically the installation, the bushing or the fitting they use between Design 2 and 3 is different because the hose, the part number is in fact different. They actually use a different method to install this. Again, they all go towards the same transom assembly casting, whether it's Design 1, 2, or 3. they all install into this transom assembly or gimbal housing. Okay, and as I mentioned, this is the old style bell housing. And what I actually needed to do was take this old bell housing and convert it to the new style, because I was installing this bell housing onto a new transom assembly with the new Type 3 or Design 3 cooling hose. So what I actually did, this used to have ribs, I basically just filed these out with a Dremel. So it made that nice and smooth, and I tapped a whatever size screw that was at the same position as the new one, so that clip could get installed. So this is also possible to do if you want to modify your old bell housing to accept, basically to make it the new bell housing and to accept the Design 3 water hose. I don't think this will be as common. So if you need to buy a new bell housing and you also want to upgrade the water cooling, I think it's a pretty good idea to install the new bell housing, get the new cheaper bell housing with the new hose, which is maybe, I don't know, $75. Now, most likely you're doing this with the engines in the boat and the transom or the gimbal housing in the boat. Realize you are going to have to change. You are going to have to get to the back of the housing there, which you may have some tight access depending on your engine room. But you will need to change, get to the top there to install the new water hose. Hope this helps. Thanks.